Alright, welcome to the season finale, the long-awaited season finale of the J-Karp show. I'm sorry for the 2-month delay, but I'm back and ready to roll. So to kick off this season finale, I'm going to recap weeks 1 and 2 of the NFL. First, we have week 1. The key matchup that we featured in week 1 was the Green Bay Packers versus the San Francisco 49ers, both of whom are favorites to meet in the NFC title game this year. Green Bay had a good offense and a good run despite 22 points, but Aaron Rodgers' one interception was the deal breaker as it set up a Frank Gore touchdown, putting the Niners up by 2 touchdowns. A margin Green Bay would trim but never overcome. It's definitely not time to hit any sort of panic button, but the question for the Pack is this. We know the offense is loaded and boasts the capability to post 35-plus points every week. Yet at some point, will the defense, such as Charles Woodson and Clay Matthews, and their band of merry men be able to bring it all together? On someone other than Jay Cutler and the Bears, which we'll bring up later. Well, I'm going to bring up one of the most popular segments on the show, Quick Hits, to talk about the rest of week 1. Washington caught New Orleans at the perfect time, but whatever the case may be, the RG3 era is officially underway in Chocolate City. RG3's intro to the NFL was an all-time great debut, second to only Newton's last year. He threw for 320 yards with 2 touchdowns. The Saints, however, just looked unsaint-like with offside calls, pivotal penalties, and drop passes. Yeah, I bet they're really missing Sean Payton now. Michael Vick against the Browns tossed the ball 56 times, threw 4 picks, and the Eagles' offensive line appeared less reliable than a suspect on first 48 once they're in the investigation room. Yet somehow Philly won the game, and you ask why? Okay, because Brandon Weeden played like Tim Couch 2.0 with 4 picks of his own. But here's a question. Why in the blue hell is Philly so determined on airing it out so much when one of the best backs in the league, LaShawn McCoy, sits at their disposal? I mean, he had 110 yards on 20 carries against the Browns, but still, 56 attempts and 17 points? Oh well, moving right along. Oh, you gotta give Carolina credit here. They posted a whopping 10 yards on the ground in week 1 against division rival Tampa in its 16-10 loss. That's 10 yards more than Chris Johnson's got. The Texans made light work of the Dolphins, coasting to a 30-10 win. Both squads are moving in opposite directions. Houston, a team not many people a couple years ago thought was going to be anything, having dreams of a Super Bowl, while Miami, well, they're just dreaming for when the Heat finally tip off. Now we have Megatron and the Detroit Lions. St. Louis won that game, but the final score had Detroit win. And when you ask, why did you just say that St. Louis won the game? Because if you watch that game, you would see that Detroit should have lost. The one drive where the Rams defense wasn't good was the one that cost them the game. But the entire game, practically, Stafford was pressured. He couldn't get a lot of his throws out. 3 picks, 1 being returned for a touchdown. And the Rams have a good defense. I mean, yeah, they have some issues here and there, but you know what? They're the Rams. They're the youngest team in the league. I give them credit as much as anybody else should. The Rams are a good team, especially in the NFC West, where John Skelton and the Cardinals lie. Anyway, back to week 1. Unless Tom Brady and the Patriots play Eli Manning, they're pretty much an well-oiled machine at all times. They beat the Titans 34-13, but their defense is what really took it away. If everything goes according to Bill Belichick's evil plan, Gerard Mayo and Dante Hightower could be a terror at the linebacking core. Oh, and just one of my friends, look, Stephen Ridley was on the bench for one of my friends, while my other friend started Chris Johnson. Needless to say, Des Bryant's counselor has not had an ideal start to the fantasy football season. Now, AP somehow suited up for week 1 after his leg damn near fell off last year, and his 84 yards and 2 touchdowns were huge in Minnesota's overtime victory against Jacksonville. And Blaine Gabbert arguably had the best game of his career so far against Minnesota. Now, the Falcons dropped 40 points on the Chiefs. And the Chiefs have never really had a good defense, but 40 points? Holy crap. Somebody bring Dick Vermeil back on the line. You would think for a defensive coordinator coach, he would be better on the defense. Oh well. Now we come to week 2. Well, actually, we have one more game. Well, I want to talk about it at least. Jay Cutler and the Bears beat the Colts 41-21 in week 1. Jay Cutler threw for 333 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Forte had 120 all-purpose yards. The week after was worse for the Bears. Week 2 featured the Bears and Packers on Thursday Night Football. And needless to say, it was almost as if the offensive linemen weren't even in the game. It was absolutely pitiful to watch. It's like these two teams are considered Super Bowl contenders. Neither O-line could even block. It was just horrible. And the rushes weren't that big either. Some were, but some weren't. Another thing that happened a week 2 that surprised everybody, the Patriots lost. Yeah, yes, the Patriots do lose. But you know who they lost to? No, not the Bills. We're not that desperate. The Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, that's right. The Patriots lost to Arizona Cardinals. You know why? Because the Cardinals have an underrated defense, and the Patriots have an overrated offensive line. That's basically it. Their defense was good. The Patriots line was bad. They pressured Brady. They got him hurt. They got Hernandez hurt. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. Gostkowski missed the potential game-winning field goal. Patriots would just look sloppy. Now we come to the Rams and RG3. Oh, what a game. What a game for RG3. He got the crap beat out of him when he didn't make a good throw. Josh Morgan thought it's a good idea to try and piss off Cortland Finnegan. But if you want tips on how that works out, just ask my good friend Andre Johnson. He'll tell you. Rams ended up winning 31-28 because Sam Bradford and Amendola finally looked like a good quarterback-receiver tandem, as Amendola got the most catches on the team and got 160 yards receiving. That's impressive, really, for the Rams. And now with Steven Jackson getting hurt with some groin injury, it's time for a guy who I've been a fan of ever since we drafted him, Daryl Richardson, to step in, show us what he can do. But I'll be honest, when Steven Jackson retires, which I hope is not for a long time, soon remains on the team. As long as he stays on the team, the Rams should be fine as far as backups are concerned. But overall, it was a good game for the defense and the offense of the Rams, and the offense of the Redskins. Now we have Cleveland and Cincinnati. Well, Cleveland once again lost, but Brandon Weeden and Trent Richardson finally looked like, once again, a good duo. Richardson had 146 yards. Brandon Weeden, 322 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Better than the 5.1 rating he got week 1. Then you had the Eagles and Ravens. And then this is when the replacement refs really started to piss off some of the NFL players. The Eagles won by 1 point, being the first team in NFL history to open up 2-0 by winning both games by 1 point. It was a good game. It was a very good game up until the nitty-gritty end. In fact, the Ravens actually had a potential game-winning score, but it was ruled down and they didn't recover. Then you have the the Giants and the Buccaneers. We've already been through the Patriots. I don't want to go back to them. Giants facing the Buccaneers. Eli Manning threw, and you're going to think I'm kidding, but I'm serious. He threw for 510 yards. Not even kidding. Victor Cruz had 179 receiving yards. Hakeem Nicks, 199. And they still barely won. Because Eli Manning still threw 3 picks in very costly times during the game. But it was a very good shootout till the end. But in the end, the Giants, defending Super Bowl champs, came out on top. Next, we have the Seahawks and the Cowboys. Seahawks winning 27-7. Marshawn Lynch actually showing up, getting over 100 yards. Tony Romo, who I started in fantasy, didn't get me a whole lot, but I still won anyway. Now 2 more games I do want to talk about from that day. You know, there's others like the Dolphins or Raiders, but who the hell really wants to talk about the Raiders, for crying out loud? But we have the Niners and the Lions. Lions do not look like the same team they were last year. Stafford has just messed up a lot of his throws already these first couple weeks. The Niners, I think, are probably my favorites to at least win the NFC, if not the Super Bowl. Not my prediction, but I'm just saying what I think. They're the all-around best defense in the league right now. I mean, everything's working for him. Alex Smith's clicking on well. He's doing good. The Niners are the all-around balanced team. Just make sure they don't have to make David Akers kick a 63-yarder every time. Now, last one we have Broncos and Falcons. Whew. Yeah, so how about that Peyton Manning? Holy crap, what a bad game. They almost made the comeback, but in the first half it was like Dan Avorsky was playing. Or Ryan Leaf. Okay, well, not Ryan Leaf. Maybe Mark Bulger. But Peyton Manning threw 3 picks in the first half. Eventually they settled down and they only lost 27-21. But it was still a good game, and it showed one thing. The Falcons are also going to be a force to reckon with this year. I personally believe Matt Ryan has the best supporting cast in the NFL. Some may say the Packers, some may say the Giants. I think it's the Falcons. Look at who the Falcons have on offense. You got Matt Ryan, but the receivers, you got Roddy White, of course, Julio Jones, the ageless Tony Gonzalez, even a sleeper, Harry Douglas, and Michael Drunk Driving Turner is even in there. They have a good cast of players that have already scored 67 points in 2 games. I can see them at least competing for a top spot in the NFC this year, especially with the issues and lack of talent coming around the rest of the division. Now, one thing I do want to say, the Saints are just going to get worse. And I'm not saying they're a bad team. I'm saying is all this issue about the bounty program, all this issue about the suspensions, everything has distracted them and affected them in a way that's going to cost them this season. Not saying they're going to go 0-16. I am going to say if they do bad this year, don't be surprised. But you know, there was a lot of surprises in that week 2. How many fewer interceptions were thrown than in week 1? Like, oh my gosh, how many interceptions. It was unbelievable how many interceptions were thrown. But you know, like I said, you had the Texans beating the Jaguars. Arian Foster, who's the best back in the league, basically. The only thing that's bad about him is that he's on the Texans. He doesn't have really the best supporting cast. But it was a good week, too. A lot of good games. And 19 teams in the NFL right now are 1-1. Anything can happen in the NFL. We know that for sure. Well, that about does it for this season finale. Tomorrow, I know Thursday Night Football's already happened, but tomorrow I'm going to give you guys my predictions on Week 3. Now, for the record, I was going to pick the Giants over the Panthers anyway. No way in hell am I picking a team run by Cam Newton over a team run by Eli Manning. But I'll give you the rest of my predictions tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in for this episode. You can check out all my other videos from this season on YouTube. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at J-Karp SportsFan1 and like me on Facebook. Alright, this is J-Karp signing off.